Hello, and welcome to the next episode of The Divorce Couch. My name is Salma, and I'm a coach based in London.
Hi, I'm Simone, and I'm the divorce coach based in Germany.
And hi, I'm Claire, and I'm a divorce coach based in Northern Ireland.
So the topic for today that we're looking to cover is really around getting through the tough times and what tools and lessons we learned during that time. Because as we all know, divorce isn't just about the practical process of, the filing of the paperwork and organizing the children. It can be very challenging at times. And, there'll be many situations where you find yourself in a really challenging, dark space. And what we wanted to discuss in this episode is what did we do and what could you do to help get through those tough times? So hopefully you'll find this episode, helpful from a practical perspective. So who would like to start?
Well, I've made a whole list yesterday because I know that this is basically it's two-part. We also want to talk about the next time, which is more on a higher level. I mean, really, if you can't even do anything practical. But I have just, went back my separation journey, and I wrote down what helped me. I even brought a book that I thought was helpful. I'm just gonna go. So I think it must have been the first time the kids were gone. So it's the first weekend when you're on your own, and I remember that my ex husband, I think he download Spotify, and I'm not into apps, but then I found Spotify, and that was such a blessing. I mean, I have created different playlists. There is one that helped me cry. I have come across songs. It's beautiful because then it has this algorithm. So it keeps suggesting you new songs. And I think once I was down the sad song mode, it just kept suggesting me new songs. And some of them were lyrically so supportive. There were two songs that were by Whitney Houston. It's called "I Look to You" and "I Didn't Know My Own Strength," and I just fell for the lyrics. I didn't know my own strength. Kind of like really supported me to believe in myself. And it was way at the beginning. And "I Look to You" is basically, I think she was very religious. It was kind of like sometimes also, looking for something else. That was fun. That was just basically something sad, because sometimes I kind of had to push myself, let it out. You need to cry. Some songs, there's another playlist. It was basically, I just called it Then. And again, because of the algorithm, it kept suggesting me songs out of the past. And all of a sudden, I was just reconnecting with those moments when I was 18. And I remember at the age of 18, I was passionate to leave what wasn't working for me and my family. I didn't know where I was going to, but I just wanted freedom and liberation from my family at home and find myself. And there were songs that came along, and all these songs came back, and I was reconnecting with who I thought I would become, and now I am the one I wanted to become then. So yes, music, big times. Until now, I music is one of those moments that really bring me through whatever emotions I want to feel on purpose, or just how do you say, when I was in a mood that just basically made it even stronger. Could be positive. Gloria Gaynor.
Can I jump in on this with you, Simone? Because when you're talking about that, I hadn't been an app person. I didn't really, podcasts, like, well, what is that? I just wasn't really. But music is something I've always loved. I think back to when I was in Crete when I was about 18, and I had, do you remember Walkmans and cassette tapes? And I had Cher blasting in my ears on coach trips, walking up Gorges and things. So music has always been something that I have found something different in. So one of the things besides, so on Spotify, I have different things. I have a playlist called New Beginnings, and anytime I heard a song I loved that was that level for me, I would pop it into that playlist. I have one called Restoration, which is kind of when I got through a lot of the harder stuff and I found a bit more peace. I put in a restoration one. It was more calming. different things like that. But I also used Amazon Prime because they have things like Morning Cup of Coffee and Lazy Sunday Afternoons. And there were certain times when I wanted something in the background but didn't know what I wanted. And their playlist, I found, because they're quite long, I find those great because I could have, I could change it and put it on through the speaker in the TV, and it would kind of blast out through the house. And I lived in an apartment for the first year, so it was all one big open space. And music has been a really good part of my journey. It has definitely helped me to connect with some of the stuff I've had, but also it's pulled me forward in a way that not a lot of other things have. There's something about music that touches my soul. And I found Spotify and Amazon Prime to be the two things that started me going. And then I would hear something and go, what's that song? And look it up. And that gave me a different focus. So it gave me something to do. And then when I put on one of the playlists I made, I would smile because I think, oh, I remember putting that one in. And I remembered why I put it in. And it was healing. I found it healing and restorative on my whole journey, and still is. It's very much a part of my world.
Yeah.
How about you? Basically, our episode is sponsored by Spotify and Amazon Prime.
We're not sponsored by anybody.
No. It'd be nice if we were, though, but that's maybe in the future. I think for myself, when I think back to, the years during the divorce and like for a number of years after the divorce, one of my darkest times was actually going over and over what was happening or what had been said or situations. And that kept me, I think, stuck in a really dark place for a very long time.
Yeah.
And knowing what I know now, obviously after training as a coach and sort of getting through that really dark period, I think that's one of the things that if I had worked harder, I think at that point, to stop that constant trail of thought that was keeping me, in that moment. Because obviously, when we're, not to say that it's easy to forget what's been said and done, but I think I was spending literally days, just, any spare moment I had, it was going over conversations or going over, situations. And I think, for me, when I discovered something like meditation, for me was a little bit of a game changer, because then what I was training my mind to do was to just stop going over and over and over things that were just hurting me again and again and again. Because obviously I was reliving those moments and I didn't know how to stop, or not stop reliving those moments, but sort of reduce the pain that was every time I was reliving those moments. So, whatever we can learn, whatever works for us. And to be honest, one of the things I was thinking about this morning, one of the things that I still do even now, and it works for me, it doesn't work for everybody, is to have a nap. One of the things, because it breaks my chain of thought, because I'm the kind of person that does, I suppose in the early days, those naps were maybe a whole day, I don't want to get out of bed, duvet days type of things that we all experience. But actually what I found, what works for me now is when I'm in a really dark space, I will go have a nap for about 20 minutes, because I think what that does for me is it breaks that chain of thought. You're tired, you're emotional, you're getting, you're stuck in that loop of, focusing on the dark moment. And then I go off and I'll say, I'm going to go for, not a long nap. I try to, minimize it, but go for a 20-25 minute nap. And then when I wake up, I do feel that works for me, because I can wake up and I think, right, I can start this day again in a different mode. So, it's really about trying what works for you. There's so much out there in terms of, books, like you said, inspiring music, support groups, having a chat with a friend. We have to try so many different things and find out what works for us.
I thought, a schedule. I remember at the beginning when we were not, financially able to leave Singapore, I would I could have then just sit there and basically gotten up every morning for 8 weeks. But what I've done is I scheduled. So basically I find whenever I don't have an answer, how to go through the next days, it helps me. I love to plan anyhow. It helps me to basically just structure. So I'm not, how do you call it? Confronted with not knowing what to do next, especially when it was so painful, and I mean everything was just one big question mark. You knew it would change, you knew nothing would remain the same, but I had no idea where the journey was going, and it helped me to have a schedule. I got up, I had little duvet days. I always got up, got myself ready, put makeup on my face, make myself ready to face the world, even though it didn't feel that I was facing the world. So, those were my crutches, to be really organized and crutches.
One of the things that I've picked up there that you said, Simone, that brought back memories for me, one for me was 11 months after I left my ex-husband. In fact, it was 10. My mum died in an accident. And I remember this feeling of, I can't put in more loss. I didn't know how to do it. And the funeral was where my parents lived, which was 5 hours away from where I live. So, I was on my own in a different world there. But I remember a friend of mine rang me and said, what time is your hair appointment? And this is, she rang a day before. And I was like, what do you mean? She went, you have to get your hair done for the funeral. And I remember thinking, why on earth would I do that? But the difference, the gift that she gave me of getting my hair done, doing my makeup and showing up for the world in a way that I felt I could, that I wouldn't have been able to do without it. And it seems such a small thing. But honestly, I look back at that phone call and I look back at walking into the church and I thought it completely changed my ability to walk into the church that day. And it's those, that was something that I would never have expected. The other thing for me is I love to walk on a beach. I love to walk anyway, but if I can walk on a beach, I don't know if it's the feeling of space. I don't know if it's the sound of the waves, which very often gets dry. But I process when I walk and talk. And I may talk to myself out loud, or I may not. I may phone a friend when I'm having a walk. But for me, the beaches on holidays up here around where I live, they have carried and heard my story in so many different versions and varieties, as I have shouted out, walked out, cried out, stopped because I couldn't walk anymore, because I just felt such a feeling of, I just don't know how to do this. And yet I've picked up and walked on. And the other thing, which is slightly different, is shouting on a beach is one thing, but there's always this, well, someone's going to hear me somewhere. What I have done, and I now have researched it because I thought, what's this about? And it's an energy thing. When I'm in the car, I turn the radio up full blast and I scream at the top of my voice. I do try and not do it when I'm stopped at traffic lights. But if I'm driving, if there's something going on that I'm finding is really frustrating, really difficult, that it's not moving forward, that I'm not finding my way, I'm not getting the answers, I don't know what to do, I get this built up, pent up frustration, and I don't know what to do with it. So that is what I have done. And it's kind of like hitting a reset button for me. And it allows me to go back into my world with the kids, or back into my job, or back into the world of trying to navigate the divorce. It has given me this change or shift to allow me to keep going. And now that I've read about it, I understand it's the getting rid of the pent up emotion that frees your brain. Yes. And allows you to think clearer again. I didn't know that. I just ended up doing this. So the radio went up full volume and I screamed on and off at different stages until I felt like I had almost like, okay, it's gone now. The pressure cooker effect.
Yep.
And that helped. And it's a manageable thing that costs nothing to do, but it has really helped me.
And my advice on that one would be, I mean, obviously it's different if you live in a small village and you're going to pull up at the traffic lights next to your neighbor or somebody.
Yeah.
But living in London, the likelihood of you ever seeing the person parked up beside you ever again is so minimal that is actually one of the things that I have also done, where I've just like put the music on in the car, release my frustrations, and I don't even realize that I'm sitting at the traffic lights and the person in the car next to me is thinking, okay, that's fine. But I used to think, actually, I'm never going to see this person again. So it doesn't matter, right? It's different if it was my neighbor. She'd probably, get a bit worried. But yeah, any way that we can, to release that tension. And, even if I'm at home, sometimes I use a pillow, right? I don't want to scare the kids. But, if I take a pillow and scream into a pillow, or, just like release that tension, you do feel as if, okay, now I can move on to the next.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it?
Hour, the next.
And and I guess it's important. I wondered, have I ever done that? No, I haven't.
Try it.
Yeah. Well, I'll sing, but it's probably the similar thing. I just, what I think, because there's pent up emotion to just cite you, and I think it goes in either way. Unhealthily, you yell at the kids, you are frustrated, you let it out at anybody in the traffic, you honk your car. For me, it is a lot. I mean, either I go for a walk, I ran, that I ran a lot, and I sing on the top of my lungs, and that energy goes out as well. I brought, for everyone who's watching, and I'm going to put it, if ever you want to know how life is with the ups and downs, read All the Places You Go.
Oh, I love that book.
Dr. Seuss. I mean, there's no book that, I started learning reading with Dr. Seuss, but then, somebody said, or was it in the library, go and find Dr. Seuss, and just listen to this, except when you don't, because sometimes you won't. I'm sorry to say so, but sadly it's true that bang-ups and hang-ups can happen to you. You can get all hung up in a prickly perch and your gang will fly on. You'll be left in a lurch. And it just goes up and down. And it's basically one of the most beautiful books that describes life.
I have to say, I'm smiling because I remember reading it to my children. I'm going to get that out again. I'm quite sure I still have it here somewhere. That's so true.
I read that last week when you mentioned it to me, Simone. And we've had it on our shelf for years because the kids have got the book set, and it's now become my book rather than
it lies on my bed table. Isn't it amazing?
It is.
Yeah.
Before the other thing.
Yeah. Sorry, go.
No.
Yeah, what I had consciously chosen, I'm not a TV person, but every now and then I had time. So when it came to reading and TV, and I'm only slowly coming out after all these years, there's only so much I can take. So whatever I was reading and whatever I was consuming TV-wise, it would be chick lit level. I couldn't, dive deep into anything that was too tense, that was too, world challenging. It had to be something that would entertain me on an optimistic, positive level. I think I watched. Did you watch the Good Wife? Have you watched that TV series? Yes. That was the one that I started watching at that time.
Love that.
She used to have an affair, and then she's trying to get herself back into life. That one was a show that I, binged on, or The Seven Sisters, for example. It's just something easy, and it's just something, give yourself some time to also, you don't have to go deep into everything in the world while your world is falling apart.
Yeah. I'm very ashamed to admit that the two programs that kept me going through those late nights when I couldn't sleep was the Kardashians and Made in Chelsea. Absolute trash TV. But I have to say, I haven't watched it since I've become a normal person again. I refuse to watch that. But I have to say, during those, dark evenings where I couldn't sleep and I'd put the TV on, the only thing that was on during that time that interested me was the various different series of the Kardashians and Made in Chelsea.
That's
so
funny.
I'm going to look at this coming in London and in Wiesbaden. Is the sun shining? We're all being lit up because,
on and off. And I do apologize for the light on this video. as I suppose Claire and Simone know, I'm in the middle of moving house, so I'm a bit restricted as to where I can sit. So hopefully next time we'll be all good. But I think with that, we'll wrap up. Unless Claire, Simone, have you got anything else that you'd like to add?
No, the only one thing I'd love to drop something else in. I was very bad at ringing friends for a chat because I felt like I was bothering them. And in my dark times, I needed connection. And actually, I didn't have to talk about me. I just needed connection. And so when I learned that that was actually something that I want to burden someone or whatever, that was a great thing for me, because actually somebody else's life was always able to take me out of mine. And I didn't have to go over mine. I just wanted something different. And I have great friends and I have good connection. And my friends at all sorts of hours of the day and night have been part of my journey of those difficult moments and working through them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think we all have people around us that can uplift us. What we want is to have those people around us that are going to listen to us and help us move forward.
Yeah.
Or look for them, because I didn't. I was rather disappointed by some, and then all of a sudden new ones came in. You know what?
Yeah.
Brené Brown, vulnerability, and look for them. There are people that immediately side with you. That was amazing to see how people out of the blue all of a sudden were there, holding my hand, guiding me, didn't drop me. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think to wrap up, I think what we're trying to sort of portray in this episode is that there are many dark moments, and there will be times where, you know, you think, is this ever going to end? You know, but it is. But what we have to do is push through those dark moments, keep moving forward, and look for the tools that are going to help us move forward. Yes, it's absolutely important to sort of sit with those dark thoughts and try to understand them. And it's perfectly okay to be angry and to cry and to, you know, be heartbroken. That's all part of the healing journey. But what is equally important is that we can find ways to lift ourselves out of those dark moments. So, you know, and sometimes, you know, it's not there's no rule book as to what works for one person isn't necessarily going to work for another person. You know, try different things, reach out to different resources, you know, see what works for you. And then, you know, you really sometimes do have to push yourself to do those things. You're going to have to push yourself to go for the walks, listen to the music, read the books, or do the meditations. Because, you know, when we're in a dark space, sometimes all we want to do is just stay there. But with a little bit of effort and push on our part, we can make it through. So thank you for joining us in this episode. We hope that you will like and share to any other members that you feel would benefit from the advice that we've given today. And we shall see you in the next episode.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.